Have you ever wondered why some apps feel like magic, while others are just, well, a total mess? You might think it's about the big idea, or maybe the brilliance of the programmers. But what if I told you the real secret lies in a step that happens before a single line of code is ever written? Today, we're uncovering that secret blueprint.
Look, every great piece of software starts with an idea, right? But just jumping from that spark of genius straight into building it, that's basically like trying to build a house by just guessing. I think a wall goes here. And as we're about to see, getting that first part wrong isn't just a small mistake. The stakes are incredibly high.
Get this number in your head, 100 times. That's it. Research shows it can cost 100 times more to fix an error after a product is launched compared to fixing that exact same error back in the planning phase. Seriously, think about that. It's the difference between using an eraser on a piece of paper and having to bring in a full-blown wrecking ball. It's a huge and totally avoidable cost.
So how do you do it? How do you find those little mistakes when there's still just pencil marks on a page? How do you sidestep that 100x trap that sinks so many otherwise great ideas before they even have a chance?
Well, the answer is right there in the title. It's the blueprint. I mean, you would never ever build a house without one, right? That plan makes sure the builder, the electrician, and you, the owner, are all looking at the exact same thing. Software is no different. It needs that same kind of foundational plan. And in our world, we call that a requirement.
So what is a requirement really? Formally, it's a statement of a service the system must perform or a constraint it must satisfy. It could be something like, users need to be able to reset their password. That's a service. Or it could be, the page has to load in under 1 second. That's a constraint. Notice the pattern here? It's all about the what, not the how.
And getting this distinction right is absolutely crucial. A requirement is that service or that constraint. It's the blueprint saying we need a kitchen on the first floor. It is not the design details, like let's use this brand of countertops. It's not the project plan, like the construction schedule. And it's not the testing info, like the final inspection checklist. All that stuff is important, but it comes later. First, you just need the plan.
Okay, so we're sold. We need this blueprint. But how do you actually make one? How do you get from a customer just having a vague wish list in their head to a solid, concrete plan that a team of engineers can actually build from? Well, there's a process for that.
The whole thing really just boils down to these 3 key steps. First, you elicit and analyze. That's a fancy way of saying you ask the right people the right questions. Second, you develop the SRS. That's when you write down the official blueprint. And third, you validate. That's where you check if the blueprint is actually the right one. Simple, right? Ask, write, and check.
Let's zoom in on that first step, elicit. This part is so important because requirements are rarely just handed to you. You have to be a detective. You have to discover them because a lot of the time your customers might not be totally sure what they need, or they'll forget to mention something because they just assume it's obvious.
So who are you talking to? You're talking to the stakeholders. And trust me, this list is probably longer than you think. It's not just the person writing the check. It's the people who will actually use the software every day, their managers, the engineers who have to keep it running, sometimes even the customers of your customer. Each one holds a different, vital piece of the puzzle. Once you've done all that detective work and gathered all those puzzle pieces, you move on to step 2. You create the Software Requirement Specification, or SRS. This is it. This is the official blueprint for the project. It becomes the one document that everyone agrees on, the single source of truth that guides everything that comes next. But not all blueprints are created equal. A good one has to have these qualities. It's got to be unambiguous, can't be read in only one way. It has to be complete. Did we remember to include the stairs? It has to be consistent. Do we have a plan for a window in the same spot we have a plan for a brick wall? And finally, it's got to be verifiable. Can we actually test to see if it's done right?
And that brings us to the final, crucial check. You've got this blueprint. It seems clear. It looks complete. But before you spend a single dime on building anything, you have to ask one last, really fundamental question. Is this blueprint actually the right one? This is called validation.
This final check, validation,
is where you ask a few really tough questions. First up, the big one. Is it valid? In other words, does this plan actually solve the customer's real problem? Or did we just design a beautiful solution for the wrong issue?
Next, you check again. Is it consistent? We can't have one part of a plan contradict another. It's just a recipe for disaster down the road.
Then you ask, is it complete? You take that blueprint back to the customer one last time and ask, did we miss anything? This is your final chance to avoid that, oh wait, we forgot about the garage moment. And a huge reality check. Is it realistic? It's a fantastic plan for a floating castle, but can we actually build it with our current team, our current technology, and our current budget? And finally, is it verifiable? For every single item on this list, do we have a clear way to prove that it's finished and that it works? If you can confidently answer yes to all of these questions, well then you're ready to build.
At the end of the day, building incredible software is about so much more than just writing code. It's really about this disciplined process of communication, of clarification, and of checking your work before you start. It's all about building that solid foundation long before you lay the first virtual brick.
And this isn't just some nice academic theory. The payoff here is real and it's practical. A good requirements document, a good blueprint, directly cuts down on how much work it takes to build something. And it gives you a solid foundation for estimating how much it'll cost and how long it'll take. It saves money, it saves time, and it saves so many headaches.
But the real takeaway here, the big idea, is that this kind of thinking goes way beyond software. This discipline, this simple process of ask, write, and check, is the universal recipe for turning any fuzzy idea into a real, tangible thing. Whether you're launching a company, planning a wedding, or even just building a bookshelf, creating a clear blueprint first is the secret.
So I'll leave you with this thought. The next time you open your favorite app on your phone, I want you to look past the pixels and the buttons. Try to imagine the hidden blueprint that's underneath it all. What were the core services it had to perform? What were the constraints it had to obey? Every great app has one. Now that you know what you're looking for, can you see it?